Carving, and you're headed to the White House. What an honor. How exciting. First of all, how did that whole thing happen?
Well, I'm judging I actually judge the Food Network Challenge, Amazing Challenge, Pumpkin Challenge on the Food Network. And I don't know that it'll actually happen, but if it does, we're going. Otherwise, it'll happen next year. But my co-judge, who is a chef and was one of the judges on there, he actually set it up and invited a lot of pumpkin sculptors, including the winner of that contest, to do the same.
How awesome. And you have these pumpkins that you've already carved that we can see here right now.
You can see some examples,
yeah,
yes.
It's a little different than what I was expecting because, you know, when we carve them at home, you kind of carve all the way through, where this you just kind of get right to just the surface of it. Yeah. So this is a different way of carving. How hard is this to do?
Yes, this is very easy to do, but the reason, the reason I wanted to show this today is because there's a lot of people out there that don't believe they're artists. And that's why I started to teach it, is because it's a very simple technique. There's a few steps to do, and once you do them, you can do this kind of sculpture or run off to do whatever you want.
All right, well, let's get right into it. What are you working on right now?
Well, what I'm doing is, first I wanted to show that this is a Big Mac or a prize winner pumpkin. Okay. So it's going to have a thicker skin, so it seems like a shame that you're going to cut all the way through when you see how thick this lid is. Right. That's a lot of material to play with. So that's pretty good. Also, I'm going to tell you the secret to my sculpture. If you look at this right here, you can see that you see something already there. So am I really such a good sculptor, or am I going to use what I see here, which looks like an eye area, little nose area? So what we'll do is bring that out when I continue to carve. And then because I have such a big area, I'm going to give him a few friends. So I'm just starting with a few little friends here. And so we'll be able to see exactly how to do it and what's entailed. So just a few basic steps and you can run with this. It's very, very simple.
Okay, and about how long does something like this one take versus these other little ones over here?
Well, it kind of depends on you. I highly recommend, if you guys are mostly averaging these kind of pumpkins, and if you look at this one over here, the lid's a little thinner, but the same technique applies. This one took me about a couple of hours, and then this little one took me about a half an hour. But again, I wouldn't recommend, these are really cute, but you want to do that later so you can have a little material to make mistakes first. Okay.
How hard is it for someone to first try and do this? What's the first step in being able to get that done?
The first step to do is to take a knife. This is the only time we use a knife to open the pumpkin, and the way you want to do it. And this was not the knife I used because, you know, it'd never make it. But what we want to remind people is when you put the tip towards the stem and you cut around, this is going to create a shelf so your lid doesn't fall in. This is basics, but I'm going to tell you anyway. So there you go. And that way it just sets in. If you go directly up and down, the lid's going to fall through. And if you tip this like this, it's going to fall through and you'll never get it out. The next thing is to take these tools. These are tools I use. These are used in ceramics. Okay.
So you can buy something like that at like Michael's or Joann's, right?
Yeah, yep. And I also have them on, there's a website called kitcraft.biz, and if you type in my name, Terry, in the search, it'll take you right to a set of these tools, and you can buy them set and DVD all together, a DVD to show you and everything. So the first thing you're going to want to do is gut it, take the lid off, and then you're going to want to start to take the big tool and just shave the skin off. So it's a lot like a peeler, except for a peeler's going to push and you're going to pull. So you don't want to do this because that doesn't work. You don't want to do this because this doesn't work. Just make gentle contact.
Like potato. All right, we're going to keep checking in with Terry to give you guys some more tips at home so that you can be able to do this yourself. Aaron, what do you think?
Amy Brown, who's doing a little pumpkin carving herself.
Oh, I don't know about that. I'm definitely not as talented as Terry here. Hey, earlier she got us started with how to do this using these tools to kind of carve this pumpkin out. You're actually just kind of scraping off the surface. But before you could do that, one of the big things is you got to get everything inside the pumpkin out of there. And my friend Lindsay messaged me asking, how in the heck do you do that? So what is the trick?
Hey, Lindsay. Well, most pumpkins if you're going to do it a small size, you just use a spoon or something. But something this big, you use a cat food can. Okay, or a tuna can.
Tuna can, right? And that has the edges that'll kind of make it easy to get everything out.
That's it, yeah. And it's a big, it's also doesn't have a handle on it, so you can actually reach down and scoop it out pretty easily. A lot of people think there's a lot of seeds in these, like most, but this is mostly dimension, like in this lid right here. So the weight is really in the material. That's one of the reasons you scrape the skin off, because you have all this opportunity. You can see how much depth I'm getting in here simply because I'm carving.
Now, once you get this going and you've carved out the first layer, how do you start working on the design?
Well, I always suggest a face, because a face, you know what it is. So here's a mini ribbon tool, and you can kind of see that they're very tiny. This is what I draw with. I simply take this sideways, and you see how it's getting that little shaving? Yeah. Then I take this tool, I call it a depth tool. I'm going to go in and just take about a 1/4, 1/8 inch shavings off, like this. Then, and what you do is you do it on the side that you want to pop out. So I want this lip right here to come forward. So that's why I've kept carving in there.
Do you draw the whole thing first and then start getting into getting the depth?
Some do. Some want to do that, but it doesn't really matter. I say usually locate the mouth, so then you can kind of work your way up, but artists are different. Okay. Then we've done that little trench you see right here. You just put the tip of this tool in the trench. Up and then just pull it. You see, so now you don't have any able to make mistakes, because you've got that trench already there to keep you from slipping.
Okay, that's awesome. All right, Terri's going to stick around with us when we switch over to Fox 58 as well, continuing to do this pumpkin carving and teaching us some tricks. I might try my hands at it. Love that. I don't know about that, Terri.
Thanks. Hey, I'm going to call this our carving corner. I think this is the new part of our studio. We're live with Terri Hardin. She is a professional pumpkin sculptor. That's not carver, sculptor. She was working on, this is a 200-pound monster pumpkin. Looks to me like you're actually doing a portrait of our weather guy, Aaron. But explain what you're working on right now.
Right now, I'm just doing the same basic techniques as I showed earlier. So to recap, for those of you who like to sleep in, we started by taking the skin off. Over here, there's the skin of the pumpkin. This is called a Big Mac or a prize winner. And you just shave the skin by taking a tool like this, peeling it off like this. Once that's done, you kind of think about what you want to do. I say a jack-o'-lantern's good. The one in your head, so people don't critique you. You just make it wonderful. And you start by drawing out your design just with a tool like this. These are mini ribbon tools you can find at a craft store.
We should point out, you didn't like print a pattern. You just have been doing this all by hand.
Well, the pumpkin kind of dictates it, because you can see I get pumpkins that are misshapen. For you guys, it's often less expensive because they charge a lot for the really pretty ones, and you don't want a pretty one. You want one that's going to kind of dictate to you. This had a sunken eye, so I grabbed that. There was a couple of spots that were sunken here, so I set a nose, and that kind of determined what this was going to be. So I just sort of followed the lines, sketched it. So in this case, I did the sketch like I showed you here, followed with this tool here, because this is the depth tool. So you see the lip is above, so I just kept carving. So I can demonstrate between the teeth. You see I've drawn some teeth here. We're just going to pull those teeth. We're going to make them be dimensional like teeth are.
And when we put a light in there, you'll see a difference in the shade of the glowing, correct?
The difference between just cutting holes is you've got the black of the thickness of the pumpkin and the hot light from the holes you've cut. In this case, you play with that light. You can get some soft yellows, some bright hot reds, some roses, and really play with the dimensions and with the color. Lots of different types of light. I've done one for Desperate Housewives, one for the Ellen Show. Many shows will ask me to carve them for them, but I'd rather you buy a DVD and $10 and do it yourself. I'd rather you get the pleasure of it.
Quickly, we're running out of time, but you say anybody can do this. People like me look at this and we're very skeptical, but you say anybody can.
Yes, and the reason you can is because I go over step by step what you're going to do. Now, if you fall in love with the picture, then the DVD is going to show you what the picture you want to use is too. But first, I want you to do a face so you can be comfortable and play with the techniques. It's like step 1, draw the picture. Step 2, use the depth tool. You know, step 3, put this in the trench and pull that away. You know, step 4, repeat. You know.
Terri, we're going to let you get back to working on this, because we're going to have it by the end of the show. We want to have a finished product. We're going to light it up and see what it looks like. By the way, she says all of these tools, you can get them at an arts and crafts store. She also sells them on her website. We'll have more on that a little bit later. But for now, Camby, back to you.
All right. The mic is on now. Can you hear me? Can you hear me now? Hey, guys. Okay. So check this out. awesome pumpkin carving. Actually, what we do, this is called sculpting, right? Not carving. Why is that?
Well, that's because you're playing with the dimensions of the pumpkin, and you're kind of going into the flesh instead of, cutting a hole. Now, I cut a hole here, but I creatively cut a hole because now the hot, fiery light is going to show his little eye, and I might put a pupil in there. It kind of depends on what he wants. But
what he wants. The pumpkin is taking on a life of his own.
Yes, we pick out the really gnarly ones because the gnarly ones are going to show you what they want to be, kind of. And a lot of my students will say, I just carve away whatever's not what I'm doing. So it's easy for everyone to do. In fact, you said you'd like to do it.
Yes,
So I'd love to see you do this.
All right. You're using tools that people can buy at Michael's or something like that. You also sell them. And what is your website if people want to check that out?
My website is book-cha.com, bookacha.com.
Nobody is going to remember that. No. Can they search your name or something?
Yes, Terri Hardin, Pumpkin Sculptor, and you can find it really easily.
Okay.
It's pretty easy to track me down.
Yeah, because that is a crazy website to try and remember. Okay, now, what tool am I going to be using? And if I mess this up, how mad are you going to be at me?
No, I'm not going to be upset.
Okay.
You're going to go right here, and you're going to put that tool in between, and you're just going to carve down in.
Okay.
To pull that tooth out.
And for people who aren't artists and they want to try and do something like this,
there you go.
How can they get the first initial drawing done?
Well, you can take pictures that you want, but I say get a pumpkin that speaks to you. I've had little kids say dog. They see one and it looks like a dog. They see another one and it looks like something to them, and then they just pull it out. Here, there you go. See?
Yeah, you gotta really get in there, though.
Yeah.
I'm glad I worked out my arms the other day.
Yeah. And it'd help if you were sitting, but since you can't sit, your angle is weird, so understand that. But the DVD, just step by step, shows you how to do it, tells you where to get the tools, shows you where to get the pumpkins, so that you can do it. But see?
And are you ever surprised on how these turn out, or you already kind of have an idea in your head once you start working with it?
I'm really excited when someone who believes they're not an artist, the light goes on for them. That all of a sudden they realize that they could do this, whether it's a pumpkin every year, whether they charge somebody to do it and they're all of a sudden getting paid.
Yeah, I have to tell you, you make it look really easy, obviously, with how the design is, but actually carving it out isn't really that difficult. So once you have an idea, it probably won't be that hard for people to try this.
Tool set. You can go to kitcraft.biz. It's both K's, kitcraft.biz. Put my name, Terri, in the search engine, and you can go straight there and get the DVD, and the tools are already picked out for you.
Okay, perfect.
So the basic tool set, so you don't really have to work very hard.
All right, I'm going to let the professional take over.
But look, see?
All right. It's all right, Terri. It's not as good as what you can do. And Terry's going to stay with us here this morning till the end of the show so you can see how this beautiful pumpkin ends up turning out. Although I don't know how pretty this guy is. He's a little scary. Stay with us. We'll be right back. Hey, Erin, you know what? Terry's been working on this pumpkin for the past couple hours, about 3 hours or so that she's been working on it. The longest time she's ever worked on a pumpkin, 6 hours, which if you're a True Blood fan, it was a tribute to True Blood. What did you do for that pumpkin?
I did a vampire biting a lady's neck. So pretty simple, pretty straightforward, but it was very realistic as opposed to something. This is what I prefer to do with these little faces and things, because then the pumpkin gets to tell me what to do.
If someone's going to start out, you recommend starting out with a face, but this seems so intricate. What should people try and accomplish? Because, you don't want to discourage them.
I think the best thing to do is to think of, what do you want? Do you want scary? Do you want happy? Do you want a kitty cat? Do you want a dog? And then go find a pumpkin that kind of speaks to you, as far as go look for the gnarly ones. Ask people in pumpkin patches if they've got some that are unusual or different. They're starting to know that I'm coming around, so sometimes they'll charge me extra. If there's 2 pumpkins mated together, then those are really fun, because you can do 2 heads sort of stretching away from each other, or something 2-headed, or something with a body.
When you teach people how to do this, what's the reaction when they start working on it?
The best thing I can say is the non-artist, the person who tells me they're not an artist, the person who tells me they can't do it, I tell them they're just listening to the wrong voices. And so I promise them when they go in, they're guaranteed to do an amazing pumpkin. And then what happens is they get so excited. And that's the exciting thing, is to watch someone's light go on in their head and go, I really can do this. I really I really think I have the ability, and they'll go on to do really more creative things.
And speaking of getting the light on, you're going to actually light this pumpkin at the end of our show. We have about 35 minutes or so. Are we going to be done, do you think, in that time frame?
Oh, yes. We'll be done enough for you to see exactly what you want.
You don't want to rush your masterpiece at all.
The point is done, really, but I just keep playing until you're ready.
And how close of this pumpkin do you think it looks to our weather guy, Aaron Perlman?
Well, it needs to be a little balder.
Well, we do have the top off right now, so maybe it's Aaron when the top is off.
Curl.
All right, guys, so stick around to the end of the show because we're going to show you the finished product of our scary pumpkin, a.k.a. Aaron Perlman. John?
I like her. Anybody that makes fun of Aaron's all right in my book. 8:25. Very much. We are in carving corner, as I like to call it. We have Terri Hardin, our professional pumpkin artist, working on our masterpiece. LJ, do me a favor. Show what's on the ground here. That did not come from the inside of the pumpkin. That has all been scraped off of this pumpkin. So before we came back just now, you were scraping out these teeth. Yep. And explain exactly the technique that you're using here and what kind of effect it will have when we do finally light it up.
Well, the beauty is that you've got such a depth in these bigger pumpkins that you can start to play with the dimension of the meat as opposed to just cutting a hole and forgetting about it. Now, if you don't have a lot of time, fine, but if you're a non-artist and you say you can't do this, then I defy you to try it because you can do it. You just got to keep playing, and there's a lot of area to work with if you make a mistake. You
mentioned time. This one you've been working on for about 3 hours now. LJ, if you can show those smaller pumpkins off to the left there. These are some that you did before you came in today. Just roughly how much time did these take you?
The big long one took 2 hours. The little ghost pumpkin right here took about an hour, and the little one took half an hour.
And how long will these keep if people want to do this before Halloween?
Depending on the weather. If the weather's nice and cool, they'll keep for about 4 days, and if it's hot, they may keep for just a few hours. The beauty is if you put them in a garden, the mold is black, so they start to get like a little stubble. So he'll start to get like a little stubble around here, and he might start getting a mustache and a beard, and so you start to fall in love with their rotting process. So I advise you to put it not on your porch, but in your garden, so when it does do that, it can benefit your garden as opposed to you slipping and sliding on the juicy pumpkin afterwards. But
what is the biggest mistake that novice pumpkin carvers make?
Not believing they could do it. That's the biggest mistake, because anybody as an artist, you're just listening to the wrong voices. And that's what I really say. If you get a hole that punches through it, like say you decided that this was a mistake, then you just work around it. And then all of a sudden you have a nice big eye. You're going to see when it lights, it's going to change. I had a woman who just cried and cried because she thought her pumpkin was awful. Then we lit it and she cried because it was beautiful.
Now, you were mentioning that you have a boy. He's, 14 now. He started with you when he was about 6. He was another one that's not an artist, but he's actually making some extra money doing this now.
He is. His name is Cameron, and he joined me when he was 6 years old and trained with me just having fun sculpting pumpkins. And last year he did 2 pumpkins at $200 a piece for a party. We encourage people to do their own. For me, it's $500 to have me sculpt it for you, and I say, go to my student, you're going to save money, and you're going to get some real talent. Or buy the DVD for $10, the tools for $25, and do it yourself.
She mentioned the DVD. She mentioned the DVD. We do have a copy of it here. Where can folks get this if they want to?
You can get it online. Just Google my name, Terri Hardin, and you can find it. You can also get it at the McGrath Pumpkin Patch. I'm there on October 30th. That's in Ventura. It's a huge patch. You can actually leap through and pick your own pumpkins, and I'm going to walk people through and teach them how to do the pumpkins. It's $55 and includes one of these big pumpkins for you to sculpt. These are usually $100 pumpkins, so it's a real savings, and it's just to show you that you can do it. So if you happen to be in the Ventura area on Sunday the 30th, then I encourage you to come down and check it out.
Or make a trip. All right, Terri, we're going to let you put the finishing touches on this. She basically says she can go anytime she wants. She just likes adding little details because she has time. So later on in the broadcast, we're going to come back, and we are actually going to light the pumpkin, the big unveil, see what it looks like. We'll be right back. Thanks. We are back. Terri, we have the final product. Terri has been working on this since, 5:30 this morning?
Yeah.
Do we have a name for this guy?
Ralph?
Ralph. I like it. Ralph looks good.
Is the name. Okay, we're going to plug it in and kill the lights, and let's take a look at Ralph.
Here it comes.
Ooh. Look at that.
Very spooky.
So, Terry, you happy with the final product?
Yes, yes.
Wow.
Yes.
Terry says anybody, even if you say you're not an artist, you can do this. You have a DVD that teaches people how to carve pumpkins. Quickly, where can folks get that DVD if they're interested?
Just Google my name, Terri Hardin Pumpkin Sculptor, and it'll take you to my website, and then you can learn more. But if you're in Ventura this weekend on the 23rd, I'll be demoing out there. And then I teach a class on the 30th, $55, and $25 goes to the big, giant pumpkins.
This is amazing.
Wow.
This was a 200-pound pumpkin. Now it is a masterpiece. Thank you to Terri Hardin. Thank you to everybody watching. We'll see you back here for Eyewitness News at noon. But you can get all the latest on our website, bakersfieldnow.com. Also find us on Facebook, Twitter, Google+, Tumblr, everything else.
Every morning there's a halo.